BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm Phil Goodlad, and this is the Scottish Football Podcast. The news, the views, the analysis, everything you need from our beautiful game. It's Wednesday, the 7th. It's the 7th of May already, and there's plenty of action last night.
Here's McLaren looking to provide one for Ayr United. It's a good ball, and there's the goal! And it's Jamie Murphy who sneaks in at the front post on the end of McLaren's excellent cross.
Ayr coming away from Firhill with the advantage after the Premiership playoff first leg. And there's potential investment on the cards for Hearts.
Brighton owner Tony Bloom has made a formal offer to Hearts of just under £10 million for a 29% stake in the Tynecastle outfit. His offer will now be subject to a consultation period with the foundation of Hearts.
What will this mean for the Tynecastle club? And Scotland's women, well, their new manager has been speaking for the first time.
I'm confident in the process and the progress that we can make towards qualifying for a major tournament with the players and the experience that we have. I think anything's possible with this group with time.
Melissa Andretti being unveiled to the media.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sport Scotland.
Lots to discuss, and I'm delighted to say that we've got two of the best talkers in Scottish football. Scott McDermott, the Sunday Mail chief football writer. Scott, morning to you.
Morning, Phil.
And Steve McGinn, the former St Mirren, the former Kilmarnock, the former Falkirk midfielder, the man who has his finger on the pulse of the Premiership playoffs. Stephen, good morning to you.
Morning, Phil.
Now, listen, I want to get something out, and I think we can use this as a safe space to come together to, we're not going to decry Scottish football, we're not going to talk it down, but let's be honest, were the remote controls hovering over the San Siro channel last night during the second half of the Ayr United Partick Thistle game? Stephen, be honest with us now.
Yeah, I can't lie and say I wasn't heavily watching the Barcelona Inter game, but in my defence, I was at Hampden last week. I missed the 6-goal thriller in the first leg. I was watching the Youth Cup final, so predominantly watched Barcelona Inter Milan. But what a statement victory it is for Ayr. I've watched a lot of Ayr this year. A very good home team. I thought if they could get out of Firhill with a draw, they would get the job done at Somerset. I thought it was a bit of a statement going there and win.
What a disgrace. Stephen McGinn slams Scottish football quality.
Terrible.
Turncoat on our national game. Scott, the playoffs are always a funny one because I get to the end of the regular season, I think, right, let's just have a break. And then before we know it, just literally 4 days later, up we pop up with the playoffs. I enjoyed that last night. I mean, it wasn't a classic. It won't live in the memory banks. I just enjoyed, and it's a cliche, but it was just a good old fashioned, it was like a cup tie.
I agree, Phil. Unlike Stephen, I'm obviously committed to Scottish football and watched the Thistle game for my sins. Watched the highlights of Barca later on. No, I agree. It was a good game. It was what you'd expect from a playoff tie, especially first leg. Quite tight, quite tense, a bit cagey at times. But as Stephen said, a brilliant win for Ayr. I mean, I thought going into the game, I had kind of Thistle down as favourites. I felt as if they had a wee bit more momentum, which is normally what you need getting into playoffs. But it was the classic, it was the perfect kind of first leg performance, I thought, from Ayr. Really tight at the back, no giving too much away. And then one of your big players, one of your big experienced players coming to the fore and getting a winning goal. I thought the goal was brilliant for Jamie Murphy. I'm sure Stephen will agree. Just the great angle of it last night on the TV, and I just thought it was brilliant how Murphy sees the whole picture developing from so far away, on the other side of the pitch. And you see that run, while Thistle players are all kind of caught in their heels, he's constantly on the move and he times the run absolutely perfectly. Just as I say, really showing his shown his experience, been a brilliant player. Jamie Murphy.
I'm glad you pulled that up, because I was going to ask about that goal, and then I thought, Phil, it was a headed goal from a cross, and people will not find that nearly as aesthetically pleasing as you do. I just love that. And I love the fact that, as you say, you can see Jamie Murphy just eyeing that up. He's almost made the run before he's physically moved. And then when he got to the ball, just glancing it into the back post, and the TV camera angle was perfect. Stephen, that's something that you'll play to the age grade side, won't you? To say, look, here is a guy at the age of 35 who knows how to make the run, who knows how to make contact with the ball, and who puts his side ahead.
Yeah, and it happened at half-time in the Barcelona Inter game, so I got to see it live. No, I mean, Jamie's a former teammate of mine, a good friend. No, I mean, start of the night, you're talking about potential match winners. The kind of loyalty. Murphy's always been a big game player. Probably no surprise for me in terms of 1-0 Murphy in such a big game. A headed goal, bit of a surprise for Jamie in terms of he's not scored millions of them over the career. But as Scott was saying, it's like when you watch it in the replay, he almost reads across before Conor McLennan's putting that touch out his foot. He's thinking the space there, if he just hits it and I get across my first man, whether it's with my head, whether my feet, I can get there and I can nod at home. And yeah, I mean, Scott Brown left him out at the weekend with these playoffs in mind. It's such a demanding period, the playoffs, and start of a kind of marathon journey for here to get to the Premiership. But what a start.
David Dickinson, the referee, we always like referees to get involved. He seemed to be on some sort of a quota for how many cards he was showing last night. I mean, stamped as authority on the game. I was worried at one point that it might upset the flow of the game, and you probably find Partick Thistle fans will say, yes, it did, and we should have had a couple of penalties perhaps as well. But all in all, Scott, this is balanced nicely for the second leg. And what I got last night was a sense that the playoffs work. And I want you to hold on to that, because we're going to speak about the news that came last night that they're going to streamline it. But if that's the offering last night, and I know we're joking about Inter Milan Barcelona, I enjoyed that at this stage of the season.
So did I, and that's what the playoffs give you. That's why I think the vast majority of people in Scottish football want to keep them. There's just, you can't beat having that jeopardy on the games. You know, there's so much at stake. No, they might not be a brilliant watch, especially, as I say, normally the first legs, because of what's on the line, but they're always compelling. You always want to watch them. So, no, I agree. I mean, they have to. It's the playoffs are crucial to Scottish football. Even before we had them, I was always glued to the playoffs down in England, like Championship finals.
Bank holiday weekend.
Yeah. I mean, Stephen will be involved in them as a player, I'm sure. So it's they're a brilliant watch. And as you say, the result last night just sets it up perfectly for a brilliant night at Somerset on Friday. Obviously, Ayr will get into it now as favourites, having the 1 goal advantage, but you certainly wouldn't rule Thistle out just yet.
We got this news, Stephen, that they're potentially going to look at streamlining the playoffs. So rather as a two-legged affair, it would be one leg for the quarter-final and the semi-final. So effectively, if that had come into play before 7:30 last night, Ayr United are through to the semi-final. Talk to me about a playing point of view. Talk to me about that 36th game in the league last Saturday, and you're finished and you think, right, that's it. And then it's, oh no, we've actually got potentially another 6 games of the season left. When you're striving to get promotion, do you like the fact that you have 6 games potentially to go until you get the promised land, or would it have been easier to have just had them cut now, so you get quarter-final one off, semi-final one off, maybe even the final one off?
I think it's got to, if you're going to give the third and fourth team a chance in the Championship by getting promoted. And I say that, and I mean, when you finish, I mean, I only did the playoffs from a kind of Premiership point of view. I was only in it since the introduction of them in Scotland. I was only as the Premiership team trying to keep our status. And I remember, I mean, you do your season, but you're programmed the way that you're trained, especially the longer I went on in my career, you're programmed to do as many games in the season as the calendar kind of provides. But what the playoffs, from my experience of playing the playoffs, I was emotionally shattered after the second leg of Dundee United game. It went to penalties. It was a brilliant night up at Tannadice, the first leg. Really hard, really close. Went to extra time and then penalties. Physically, I was okay, but emotionally, mentally, I was shattered in terms of everything we got through it. And that was to get through one round of it. And I'm thinking, those Ayr guys, if they go and get the job down at Thistle, they've had that kind of emotional, mental fatigue of the two games. Then it's like Livy, which is another really, really tight game over 2 periods. By the time you get to that last game, physically, they boys will, if you were to fitness test them, they'll be absolutely spot on. It's the emotional and mental fatigue that I think it's a brilliant idea to change it in terms of maybe third versus fourth, third being the home team, second versus third, second being the home team, and just one-legged. It gives the third and fourth teams a chance.
You look at Thistle 2 years ago, Stephen, when they get through to the final and they get to Ross County, they're 3-0 up with 20 minutes to go and still lose out. I mean, you're talking about being emotionally drained after that one tie. I mean, what must those boys have been going through at that time? I mean, just incredible. And that's where the whole 6 games does seem too much, for a championship player or championship team to try and get up. So I agree. I think it's important that they try and tinker it just to make it a wee bit easier on them if they can.
We're not going to suggest here that the SPFL working group last week, that there's positive to come out of that, are we? League reconstruction, starting at the playoffs. Of course, as is the want, we focus on the Premiership playoff. There was plenty of results down the leagues as well, including Airdrie winning 3-1 against Ennismuir in the first semi-final for them in the Championship playoff. Plenty of details across not just that, but indeed the rest of the games at the BBC Sports website. Let's talk Hearts then, shall we? And a likely new investment from Brighton owner Tony Bloom. Scott, £10 million, it sounds a lot to you and I. In Scottish football terms, it's probably not that much when you are trying to disrupt the duopoly that many of the back pages go with as headlines this morning. That Tony Bloom's view of why he would like to invest in Hearts. I must admit, when I heard that for the first time, my mind was taken back to some 20-odd years ago, when a certain Vladimir Romanov walked through the door at Tynecastle, disrupting the duopoly. First things first, can it be done with £10 million?
Oh, that's a big question. My gut instinct would say probably not, but I think with that level of investment, you could give it a good go. Phil, it then all comes down to, of course, how good is your recruitment, how good is your football decisions, and by that I mean putting a manager in place that's capable of going and trying to challenge.
And it's not been, sorry Scott, it's not been that great so far, and that's been with the Jamestown analytics firm that Hearts now use. That's owned by one Tony Bloom.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's got their opinion on the whole analytics thing. I mean, I'm not 100% convinced about it. If you believe that the Tony Bloom's supercomputer picked out Neil Critchley as Hearts' kind of first manager under those kind of circumstances, then obviously it didn't, or it hasn't worked out for them. But I do think overall it's a good thing. You mentioned Romanov. I think Tony Bloom's obviously a completely different character, completely different set of circumstances. I think it has to be a positive for Hearts and a positive for Scottish football that a guy like that wants to get involved. You look at his success, not just with Brighton, but they've obviously got other clubs. I think Union Saint-Gilloise has done good things in Belgium as well. You think of even just that kind of link up, maybe the possibility of Hearts getting loan players and stuff from Brighton. Hibs are obviously doing that with Bournemouth as well. You're right. I mean, it's going to take a lot of money and a lot of things going right for Hearts to go and properly challenge the big two, especially when you look at the season they've had this year. But overall, I think it has to be a positive. I think if you're a Hearts fan, you'd be pretty excited at the prospect. I mean, you might not go and do it, but you'd at least want to give yourself a chance and have a crack at it.
From a playing point of view, Stephen, what will Hearts players be making of this?
I think players, I mean, especially in this country, I think players are fans as well, and they're very interested in the game. And I was only really involved in one major takeover in my time as a player, and it was when the Pozzo family came in at Watford. I remember at the time you're kind of doing a bit of digging and seeing what life might look like, and there was a huge transfer of players and managers getting sacked every 3 months, and then over 10 years they sack 100 managers at Watford. So it kind of plays out. But I'd be really excited if I was a Hearts fan about Tony Bloom. It feels like a bit of a statement of intent, because you weren't really sure how invested is he going to be. Like, what is it? Is it that you get access to the data and the Hearts directors continue to run Hearts the way they're running it, but they just have use of the data? This feels more like Tony Bloom wants a finger on it. He wants a hand on it. And that's what's been happening in Belgium at Union Saint-Gilloise. And probably from seeing firsthand how good Club Brugge were, not just against Celtic, but in the games against Aston Villa, I think what a good side they are, really strong team. Obviously come from a strong league. Union Saint-Gilloise can win the league. They're top of the league with 3 games to play. And that's with a heavy involvement from Tony Bloom. So you're not sitting here absolutely guaranteed that Hearts are going to win the league over the next 5-10 years, but this league needs a runner. It needs a third runner. It needs for TV deals, for everything. It needs something to close the gap. And Tony Bloom has a proven track record, really taking on the big guys with bigger budgets. He's done it with Brighton. He's doing it with Union Saint-Gilloise. So I'd be really excited.
Also, Stephen, 30% of the club, or almost 30%, is not insignificant. So I agree. I think when you've got that kind of stake, you do want to say in it, and I think that's why he'll have a big influence on who the next manager is. And I'm not saying every managerial appointment has worked at every club he's had an involvement in, but you think he's going to getting guys like De Zerbi and now Ursula at Brighton. I mean, he has got a good track record, so if Hearts can get a wee bit of that, and as I say, if he's going to have a bigger influence, then I think it could be really positive for them.
Well, that was my opinion. I mean, Neil Critchley, we're all speculating that Neil Critchley was a Jamestown. Who's to say that Tony Bloom's not wanting to make this further investment, have more stake in the club, so that doesn't happen again? He has the final say in who gets the job.
I should just say, because he'll be very, very displeased if I don't, Martin Geisler's fantastic series, The Tsar of Hearts. If you haven't heard it, download it. It's at BBC Sounds. It's a really, really good, almost a walk back through time. I mean, A, you can hardly believe it's 20 years ago since the Vladimir Romanov revolution. And B, you can hardly believe half the things that went on during that journey. Tsar of Hearts with Martin Geisler. Look out for it. Finally, let's talk Scotland and the new national women's manager, who's Scott McDermott. I am her biggest fan straight away when she spoke to the media at Hampden yesterday, and she opened her mouth and said anything is possible with regards to Scotland's future in the women's game. And you know something? I like that positivity.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say because she's learned the words of Flower of Scotland.
By the way, do you remember the dark old days when that was the first question that a foreign manager would be asked? Do you know the national anthem? No, you know what? In that typical Australian sort of Antipodean fashion, anything's possible. Let's just see what happens.
Yeah, no, it was good to hear. Listen, I'm not going to lie. I don't know too much about her, but I agree. I thought she came across very well yesterday, spoke very well, really positive. It's obviously a difficult time for the women's team at the moment. I think they've lost the last 5 games, have they won in 6? No, they're on a bit of a downer. So they do need somebody to come in and lift them. And just looking at her career, she's obviously kind of come through the coaching ranks, if you like, with the Australian FA. I think the key thing is she's been at big tournaments, Phil. She's got experience of being at World Cups and Olympics as a coach. She seems to have a good track record of improving and nurturing players. And I obviously don't cover too many of the women's games, but it feels like we still have a decent nucleus there of talent. No, off the top of my head, like Caroline Weir, Erin Kirkbrooke, people like that, playing at a really good level. So hopefully she can come in, give them a real lift. I think she's got 2 games at the end of the month in the Nations League.
Austria at the end of the month, and then 4 days later, the Netherlands. It rounds off the Nations League campaign.
If she can get off to a good start, get a bit of positivity back, get the players buying into exactly what she's all about, and as I say, hopefully it can really kind of kickstart them, get them going again, because they need to try and get back to major tournaments, obviously.
Stephen, I've left the big question till the end for you. You have an eye for a young player and what it takes to make the top. How much would you pay for Ben Doak?
It's an interesting one. So obviously £30 million figure.
Yeah. Where's that come from? Is that just plucked out the air? As somebody said, he's a good player, I think he's worth 30 million. How did he come to this valuation?
Well, I mean, but I suppose a buying club always kind of says this, what I'll be paying for. The club might say 30 million, but actually they would take 20 or they would take 25. But money in England, valuation sometimes are so kind of feel so unreal to us. I mean, you look at Birmingham winning the league with £15 million striker in League One this year. I mean, that just seems mental to think. We look at the noise we have around our top clubs and playing in the Champions League, spending £11 million a midfielder at 20-year-old, and down there they're talking about strikers for 50 million in League One. So it's just it's the way it's gone in England. It's such a expensive market. But when you see, I mean, obviously firsthand, you see the performances. He's been a real difference maker for us with the national team. He's so important. He's irreplaceable at the minute in terms of that pace and directness, and you can see he has got a big future.
Let's play fantasy football. A new chairman at the Steve McGinn United offers you a checkbook and says, go and sign Ben Doak. How much are you paying for him?
25.
So not 30 million.
If they're putting up that he's worth 30 million, I'll try and go under, see if we can get a deal.
Here you are.
If that's the bar, John McGinn must be worth about 150 million, you know.
Not only, Stephen, have you shunned the playoff to watch the San Siro match last night, you're now cutting down the value of our great young talent. I can just see the back pages tomorrow morning. Listen, we're going to leave it there. Steve McGinn, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Scott McDermott, great to have you on as well. New episodes every morning of the Scottish Football Podcast, bright and early. I think it's 8 o'clock that the net opens and the podcast falls out. You can listen to it at BBC Sounds or push notifications onto your phone. The editor always banging in my ear of a morning to say, make sure and get people to turn on the notifications. For now, I'm Phil Goodlad. Enjoy our beautiful game, and we'll speak again soon.
On BBC Sounds. From life aboard a Russian submarine to chairman of Hearts Football Club.
At this stage, he was the hero.
But as his controversial decisions escalated...
They said, we're going to sack George. And I'm going, you can't do this.
How did Vladimir Romanov go from Hearts saviour to a wanted man?
They caused a whole load of chaos and havoc.
Romanov, Tsar of Hearts. Listen now on BBC Sounds.